This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today it's about Old Glory. We're talking about Stars and Stripes Forever. We're looking at all 50 stars here. We're going to be talking about the different states in America and a new trivia game come out that's called America. This is based off of Fauna Terra, some past games by Friedemann and Fries, and Ted Alsbach from Bezier Games has now streamlined some of those mechanisms, added some new ones in this trivia game that takes 45 minutes, 2 to 6 players. You don't need to know the answer, you just gotta have to get close or know who does. Let's take a look. Here's the board for America, and in this game you're going to be answering trivia questions about 3 different aspects. At the top here you'll see years. We're going to be trying to figure out what years certain things happened. We're also going to be trying to figure out where certain things happened in the states. And we're going to be trying to figure out how many, certain general numbers that we see all the way up to 1 billion. Plays up to 6 players, but here we have 3 players, red, white, and blue. Each player is going to get 5 cubes of their color, and one of their cubes will go on the score points for 0. At the beginning of the game, the smartest player will go first. Have fun deciding who that is. Now you're looking at these cards, they have a choice when it's your turn. You can select of one of 2 categories. Here we have pizza, and here the question is going to be, the opening of the first Pizza Hut, we want to know the year. What state has the most pizzerias? And on this is basically shaded background, whether it's sort of the left of the Mississippi or the right of the Mississippi. This one says it's on the left of the Mississippi. It's a lot easier to read this in person. And then the number of pizzas each year. So they can select this card, or they can spin this around and say, Toy Story, the year the first movie was released, the state of the location, and the number of months to make Toy Story 2. So this person would look at these 2, they would never pull these cards out until after. They're going to decide which one to do. Let's say they do pizza. They would basically read these out to everyone and maybe even just turn it so everyone can see it as well. But they would ask all of these questions and leave it out, and then people would start to place cubes. So the player to the left of the one that asked the question goes first, and that's important because that gives you strategy as to which category you select. If you select one that you think everyone's going to know a lot about, well, you'll probably be the last one to get into the answers, but maybe if you pick one that not a lot of people know about, maybe you'll get somewhat close. So let's say it's the person to the left's turn because they get to go first after you ask, and they're going to talk about the year. They're going to guess what is the opening first Pizza Hut year. So let's say the first player thinks it's between 1940 and 1950. They're going to place it right here. Now it's the next player's turn. Now that next player has a good choice to make. Do they know about the number of pizzas eaten or the place of where it is? If they're not that sure, they can gauge how sure this person felt that it was 1940. They're a little confident. Do we think they know? If we do, maybe we say, you know what, I don't really know the area, I'd just be guessing. And I'd just be guessing about the number of pizzas too. This guy seemed pretty sure. Let me try to get close to him. So maybe this player goes here and says, this is between 1950 and 1955. The next player goes, you know what, I don't really care about the year. I don't know if either you're right or wrong. I have no idea, but I have a good idea about the state. And maybe that player goes, you know what, there's probably the most people in California. Remember, it has to be west of the Mississippi because that's what the card showed, so it has to be a state around here. Maybe they go in here and the white says California. And maybe the blue player goes, you know what, I think you're right, so I'm going to go Nevada, which is adjacent, because you're going to get points whether you're right or whether you're close, meaning adjacent. And the red player goes, you know what, I think California's right too. And the white player goes, you know what, I think I'm really right. So now all of the adjacent ones to California are done, and then it would go back to the blue player. Now at any time you can pass. I have 3 cubes left. You will lose cubes temporarily if you get some wrong. I'll go over that in just a moment. So there are reasons why you'd want to pass. Maybe you're still not sure. Maybe you don't think there's a whole lot of points left out there. You can pass at any time. But let's say this player goes a little bit further. Let's say the blue player goes, you know what, I think there's between 1 million and 10 million. They're going to go here. And let's say the red player goes, no, that's way too many. I'm going to go 100K to 1 million. And let's say the white player goes, you know what, I think it's between 10 million and 100 million. And then blue goes, I pass. So they're out. And then red goes, you know what? I think that no one has it right. I'm going to go here. This says no exact or adjacent, meaning you're not going to get it exactly right or you're not even going to be close. Nobody. and they're going to go here. Someone else might be able to go here and say, well, I think there's just no exact, but there might be an adjacent. And these choices are actually available on all of the tracks. The numbers track, the states track, and the year track have those. So if you think nobody knows, it's a good place to go. So at this point, once everybody's either passed or out of cubes, we then look at the answer. So let's see here. We have the year. 1958 was the opening of the first Pizza Hut. Now that would have been this square here because this says 1955. This one says 1960. So 1958 is this one because it's 1955 through basically 59. And so this one would have got it, but nobody's there. If you get it correct exactly, it's 7 points. If you get it adjacent, it's 3. So in this case, this player would have been adjacent to the correct answer. They would get 3 points and they would get this cube back in their hands. This player was neither right nor adjacent. This goes off the board to sort of a storage ground, not in that player's hand. And so here in the score track, we would go like that. That red would have gotten 3 points. And the state is California. So indeed, white was right. Now look at this. White was correct. So they get 7 points for this and 3 points for this, so they're adjacent. So white's going to get 10. These two guys are both adjacent once. So each of these guys is going to get 3 points. And the white is going to get 10. 7 plus 3. Everyone will get these cubes back because they were correct. Now, the amount of pizzas eaten in America every year, 3 billion, which would have been this one, 1 billion or above. Nobody got it, and nobody's adjacent. So all these 3 cubes were wrong. They go off the board, not in the player's hands. But this player, red, was smart. They thought nobody would be exact or adjacent, and so they're going to get 7 points because everybody got it wrong. Now I did want to show you that each card does have some fun facts, which are definitely fun to read. I enjoy doing it for each one. You just read a little bit more about the history of that answer. And so after the first round, we have red leading at 13, white at 10, and blue at 3. Now these are the cubes that were wrong. Any wrong cubes went out to the side of the board. At the end of the round, everybody gets back one of those cubes. So red's getting the only one they lost, white's getting the only one they lost, blue's getting one of the ones they lost, but they have one less cube than everybody else right now. And so everyone would get those cubes. And now, but if you, for some reason, at the end of the round, had less than 3, then you always get back so that you have at least 3. So let's say blue totally used all of his cubes and they were all wrong and he has none at the end of the round. He'll always get back a minimum of 3, so you start every round with a minimum of 3. Now here is a brilliant idea of the design of this game. So the card pizza was here. We took it out. We did the answer. Obviously, you can't see the answers of any of the cards when they're in the box. Now, when you finish this, you'll notice that this box, again, has half the cards on one side, half the cards on the other, and a divider. What you do is you actually place this card, because they're all double-sided. I'm going to pull it down here. It's double-sided. It has different things on the back. I'm going to put this right behind the divider facing us with pizza. Because what happens is now, by the time the cards go through, when that card comes back up, it's automatically going to be its other side. So it allows the cards to flow through the entire game on both sides before you see that card again. By the way, there are 160 cards, which are 320 actual questions, and there's only 6 questions per game, so that's about 53 games of material. Then this would pass to the next player, and that player would go to, they would pick, hey, do I want to answer about the space shuttle or Toy Story? And you would continue this until there are 6 questions answered. At the end, whoever has the most is the winner. If it's a tie, the player who has the most cubes left in their supply wins. And if it's still a tie, they do a 1-round showdown where it's just them doing a new card. And if it's still tied, they keep going until somebody wins. And now if you're a true champion, you can actually flip the board over. It's double-sided. It's the same thing except the states aren't labeled. You kind of have to know which states are where, which gives an additional challenge to those super smart people. All right, well, there's America. I just got back from visiting with Ted at Bezier Games. I got to check out some of the games like this and some other cool ones, and I did an interview with him. So if you haven't seen that yet, go ahead and click the link below or this above me, and you can go to that interview. You'll learn some cool things about Bezier Games. Now, America itself. I've been a big fan of Terra that came out last year, and Terra was based on a game called Fauna, which was sort of a trivia game about animals. Terra made it sort of a worldwide trivia game, and I gave that a very positive review, and I really liked it. It wasn't without its shortcomings, though. There were a little bit of fiddliness there. There were some things I didn't like about the game, but overall I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now I'm really excited about this because Ted really has streamlined a lot of these mechanisms, and that everything that he did to this game, or this system, or this engine, made it so much better. And I already loved it, and now this is really taking that type of system off the charts for me. Let's talk about those differences. First of all, that genius way of having those different cards, and when you get to choose, hey, which card do I want this round to be about? And there's actually even a lot of strategy about that. I like how you look at the cards like, wait a minute, when I pick this card, everyone else is going to get a choice before me. So do I think I know something about one of these two sides that nobody else knows? If that's true, I'm going to pick that one. Or do I think I know a lot about this card, but I think everybody else will too? Maybe I'll go after the one that's different or harder that maybe a lot of people might not know, and I'll watch them, and as they put their answers, I'll piggyback on theirs, which one I think is the most confident. So some interesting strategy just in picking the card, and I love how when you're done with that card, it goes into the back behind, so then as it flips around, it goes through that deck a whole nother time before it becomes to the end. Now I do like, hey, there's so many cards in here. I think I've calculated out to 320 different questions, or cards, which each have 3 questions, but 320, which is roughly over 53 games of this before you get through it all again, so tons of replayability factor here. Now I really like what he did with the charts and the timelines. In this version, there's only one right answer, where in Terra there were 2 right answers. I like the fact that you're putting in there and only one person can be right, but you could have 2 people adjacent to that as well. So they fixed sort of that spot. So there's only one right answer ever, which was one of the problems I had with Terra, which is some of the cards had like 30 countries that were correct, and you had to go around, it took a while to score them. But this is just, hey, one answer, correct. And I like how they, gave you the, just kind of like the compass in Terra, west of Mississippi, east of Mississippi. But another thing I really loved is that whole, hey, nobody's gonna get it right or be adjacent, or I don't think anybody's gonna be adjacent. And that is such a cool aspect, because if you've got a card that's really hard and you're watching people guess, and you're like, hey, I don't think anybody's gonna be close to this, let me go take a stab and a gamble. Hey, the spot's open, let me just go for it. And sometimes you'll get 7 points, just as good as being correct, by thinking that, or knowing that other people are not gonna get it correct. I really like that. It also holds weight for, hey, not wasting all your cubes up front and being wrong, because if you have a lot more cubes than people, and people pass and you have some left over, you can look at all the guesses that are out there and go, hey, I didn't guess too much earlier in the game, I've got a bunch now, everyone stopped, I'm sure they're not right, boom, get my 7 points for everyone not being right or adjacent. So I really like that. So overall, everything they added is amazing. It really streamlined it and added things that make this game a whole step higher than the one that I already really liked a lot. Now granted, of course, it's about America, so people watching this in Europe might not care at all, but I will say a lot of the cards are sort of general knowledge as well. Sure, I guess every single one is gonna have a question about where the state is, but there's a lot of things about, like, apple pie and chocolate cookies, and so you might not even have to know anything more about our geography than anyone else, and the years and the amount of cookies and stuff eaten are just natural things to know anyway. Also, so here's the big deal about this, is I think this is going to give Wits and Wagers a run for its money for that party game niche that will find itself in Barnes & Noble and Target and other mass market stores, because Wits and Wagers is so great because you don't need to know the answer. But that's only really good with like 4 or more. I prefer it with 5, 6, or 7 players. This only plays to 6, but this game plays excellent with 2, 3, 4, every range, 5, 2 through 6. They all play excellent. Where Wits and Wagers, you really need a bigger crowd. So I think this has more replayability. It has more slots and more different groups that you could play it with. And at the same time, you still don't need to know. One of the 3 answers on the card is usually like a wild guess you'll need to do because it's really hard. The other one's sort of medium, and the other one's sort of easy. And I like that because, depending on when you pull a card, it sort of evens things out. And it does feel a little bit like Wits and Wagers, where you're just, hey, they're kind of easy, no one will know this answer, let me guess. But then some of them are like, oh, I really do know this. And I love that about this. It takes out all the betting that Wits and Wagers does. So I really think that when it comes to a party game, if I want trivia and have a fun, light trivia game, this might overtake Wits and Wagers for me, which is a huge statement, because forever this game has been the trivia game to play for gamers and non-gamers. I think this is going to rival it, if not be better than it. That's how highly I think of this game. Absolutely fantastic. When this comes out at Gen Con, go over there and play this thing, and I bet you'll grab a copy, because this is an excellent, fun family trivia game that gamers and non-gamers can like all the way. Now, I like this game so much that I'm gonna keep it in my gaming library, so let's induct it properly with a high-flying flag. This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter, making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.